Spring 2025 was meant to be a season of growth for the auto industry, a time when optimism usually returns to factory floors and communities look forward to new opportunities. The promise of electric vehicles and innovation had many hoping for a bright future, with automakers investing heavily in new technology and reimagined production lines. But instead, General Motors delivered a jolt, announcing over 1,400 layoffs across the US and Canada. The news came suddenly, catching many off guard, and sending shockwaves through the industry. The news hit hard in communities like Detroit and Ingersoll, where GM plants are economic lifelines. For families and small businesses, the impact was immediate and deeply personal, threatening livelihoods and local economies. These weren't outdated factories, but newly retooled centers for electric vehicle production, now idled, leaving workers and local businesses reeling. The investments in modernizing these plants had raised hopes, but now uncertainty loomed large. The layoffs exposed the rocky path to an all-electric future, raising tough questions about job security and the true cost of rapid transformation. Union leaders and workers alike wondered if the transition was happening too fast for communities to keep up. For every worker sent home, countless others in supply, logistics, and local shops felt the ripple effect. The layoffs stretched far beyond the factory gates, touching every corner of the local economy. The scale of the cuts underscored the vulnerability of an industry in flux, and the anxiety was immediate and widespread. Industry analysts debated what this meant for the future of North American manufacturing. The dream of a seamless EV transition was being tested, forcing a reckoning with consumer demand, supply chains, and the human cost of change. Executives faced tough decisions as they tried to balance innovation with stability. The story was no longer just about new electric vehicles, it was about the workers and communities now facing an uncertain future, and the difficult questions that remain unanswered as the industry moves forward. GM's layoffs were the result of a perfect storm: slowing EV demand, costly factory retooling, lingering strike effects, and trade uncertainty. Consumer interest in EVs cooled in late 2024, with high interest rates and charging concerns making buyers hesitate. Major customers cut orders, forcing plants like CAMI to slow down and idle hundreds of workers. Retooling for EVs is a massive, expensive undertaking, often plagued by delays and technical hiccups. The aftershocks of the 2023 UAW strikes still rippled through supply chains, with parts shortages leading to more shutdowns. New automotive tariffs in April 2025 added another layer of instability, making automakers cautious and conservative. The result: a climate where layoffs became almost inevitable. The industry's transformation was proving far more complex and painful than anyone had hoped. For workers, the reasons didn't matter. The impact was immediate and personal. Behind every layoff statistic, there are real people, mothers, fathers, sons, and daughters, whose lives are suddenly turned upside down. When a job disappears, entire families are thrown into crisis, forced to make impossible choices about what to cut and how to cope. In Ingersoll, David, a 15-year CAMI veteran, suddenly faced 20 weeks without work, mortgage and kids' expenses looming, his sense of security evaporating overnight. In Detroit, a young mother at Factory Zero found her dreams of a stable future upended, forced to dip into savings and make tough choices for her children, wondering how long she could hold on. The emotional toll was immense. Uncertainty, stress, and a sense of betrayal ran deep, as families questioned what the future would bring. Supplemental unemployment benefits helped some, but rarely covered all expenses, and fears of losing health insurance added to the anxiety, leaving many feeling exposed and vulnerable. For older workers, layoffs threatened retirement plans built over decades, putting hard-earned dreams at risk. For younger ones, they shattered trust in the promise of steady work, making them question if loyalty and hard work would ever be enough. Generational pride in building cars gave way to shared worry and loss of identity, as families who once celebrated their work now faced an uncertain legacy. The layoffs fractured communities, turning assembly line camaraderie into collective uncertainty, as neighbors and friends struggled side by side. Workers who once built the future now wondered if they had one, searching for hope in a landscape that felt unfamiliar and unstable. The human cost of the industry's upheaval was impossible to ignore, echoing in every home, every conversation, and every uncertain tomorrow. In Canada, Unifor responded to the CAMI layoffs with swift action, organizing emergency meetings, demanding accountability, and rallying public support. Union leaders argued that GM, having received public funds to retool for EVs, owed workers more than pink slips. Their message: taxpayer investment should guarantee job security, not just corporate profit. Unifor negotiated for maximum benefits, a firm return-to-work date, and guarantees of recall after the shutdown. The union became a lifeline, offering resources, information, and a united front. Their bold stance turned the layoffs into a political issue, keeping workers' stories in the headlines. Canadian Labour's response set a precedent. The EV transition couldn't come at the expense of those building it. Solidarity and collective action became the workers' most powerful tools. GM framed the layoffs as a temporary, strategic response to market shifts, just a pause to align production with demand. Official statements spoke of market dynamics and prudent business decisions. But for workers, these were hollow words. Production adjustment meant lost income, sleepless nights, and broken promises. A Detroit worker put it simply, "They see numbers. We see our lives turned upside down." The company's assurances of a temporary shutdown rang hollow, especially with no firm return dates. Workers feared that temporary could become permanent, as has happened before. The disconnect between corporate jargon and lived reality deepened mistrust and resentment. For GM, it was about shareholder value. For workers, it was about survival. The layoffs exposed a fundamental divide, profits versus people, in the industry's transformation. The human cost of strategic pauses was borne by families, not balance sheets. The GM layoffs were just one thread in a much larger web, aftershocks that rippled out from the 2023 UAW strikes, affecting not only the company, but the entire auto industry across North America. And then, new tariffs in 2025 added another layer of uncertainty, making it even harder for companies to plan ahead. The strikes exposed the fragility of just-in-time manufacturing, a system that had long been praised for its efficiency, but now showed its weaknesses. Supply chain bottlenecks lingered for months, with delays and shortages becoming the new normal for automakers and suppliers alike. A single missing part could halt entire plants, idling thousands of workers and costing millions in lost production. This revealed just how little slack the system had, and how quickly things could unravel. New tariffs disrupted the cross-border flow of parts, creating fresh headaches for manufacturers who relied on seamless trade. As a result, automakers became even more cautious, rethinking their strategies and contingency plans. The result was a tangled supply chain with delays and confusion at every turn. A strike in Missouri or a tariff in Washington could trigger layoffs in Ontario, showing how interconnected the industry had become. The industry's relentless drive for efficiency had left it vulnerable to multiple shocks at once, with little room to adapt when things went wrong. For workers, it was impossible to pinpoint a single cause. There were too many moving parts, too many factors at play. EV sales, strikes, tariffs, and logistics all played a role, each one adding to the pressure and confusion. The complexity made solutions elusive, as every fix seemed to create new problems elsewhere in the chain. But the lesson was clear. Resilience, not just efficiency, was now essential for survival in the modern auto industry. The layoffs were a warning sign, a signal that the old ways of doing business could no longer be relied upon. The system itself needed rethinking, and the future would belong to those who could adapt and build true resilience. The GM layoffs of 2025 mark a turning point for North American auto manufacturing. The dream of a smooth EV transition has given way to a reality of volatility and hard choices. Automakers must now build flexibility into their factories, able to pivot between electric, hybrid, and gas vehicles as demand shifts. For workers, the future promises opportunity, but also precarity, as new green jobs may lack the stability of the past. Unions and governments will play a crucial role in ensuring these jobs are secure and well paid. Public investment will increasingly come with demands for job guarantees and community benefits. The events of 2025 are a wake-up call. Balancing innovation, stability, and worker welfare is the new challenge. The road ahead will require collaboration and resilience from all sides to build a fairer, more secure industry.